Bill Pearl wins his fourth Mr. Universe. All the details of the 1971 NABBA Mr. Universe coming up next on this episode of Bodybuilding History.
I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings, though.
There's always a pecking order. The little peckers never mess with the big peckers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
Welcome to another episode of Bodybuilding History. I'm your host, John Hansen, from the Bodybuilding Legends Podcast and the website bodybuildinglegendshow.com. On this episode of Bodybuilding History, I'm going to talk about the 1971 NABBA Mr. Universe contest, a very historic event in bodybuilding history. This was a competition where the legendary Bill Pearl won his fourth and last NABBA Mr. Universe contest at the age of 41 years old. This was one of the best NABBA Mr. Universe competitions in the history of that historic event. So let's get into the details of what happened. The 1971 NABBA Mr. Universe was the 22nd NABBA Mr. Universe. It took place on Saturday, September 18th at the Victoria Palace Theatre in London, England. The prejudging for the event was held one day before on Friday, September 17th at the Royal Hotel. The contest, as always, featured an amateur and a professional category. This year, 38 competitors competed in the amateur category and 11 contestants competed in the professional category. As I mentioned, the 1971 NABBA Mr. Universe turned out to be one of the most exciting NABBA Mr. Universe competitions in the history of the event, especially in the professional division. Three bodybuilding legends, Bill Pearl, Reg Park, and Sergio Oliva, all competed against each other for the first time ever. Only the great Arnold Schwarzenegger was missing from the lineup. So before we talk about the professional division, let's talk about the amateur division of the 1971 NABBA Mr. Universe. The amateur division was contested in three height classes. Class 1 was for competitors who were over 5'9". Class 2 was for competitors who were 5'6" to 5'9". And Class 3 was for any competitors under 5'6". In the professional category, there was two classes. Class 1 was for competitors 5'8" and over, and Class 2 was for anyone under 5'8". So Class 3 in the amateur division featured 12 competitors from 10 different countries. Chris Dickerson, who was the winner of last year's AAU Mr. America contest, was back for another try at the title. 1 year earlier, Chris had won this class, but he lost the overall to Frank Zane. So this year, Chris again took first place in Class 3, and he was looking better than he did a year ago. Second place to Chris in Class 3 was Elias Petsis from South Africa. Elias showed remarkable improvement from a year ago where he didn't even make the top 5. Elias was now a strong contender for first place in this class. Third place went to the excellent physique of Frank Columbera from Australia. Frank had taken fourth place in this class 1 year earlier. And Chuck Colris, who was a top competitor with the IFBB and AAU, was making his debut at the NABBA Mr. Universe this year. Chuck won the short class at the 1970 IFBB Mr. America, and he took fourth place in this class. Fifth place in Class 3 went to John Holt from the United Kingdom. Class 2 was the biggest in the amateur division, featuring 17 competitors. Everybody was excited to see the new Mr. America, 19-year-old Casey Viator, but unfortunately, Casey didn't make it to the event. The rumors were that Casey had reportedly taken a layoff after the Mr. America, which took place in June, and he was not in shape by September when this event took place. In Casey's absence, this class featured a clash between Albert Beckles and Roy Callender. Both Albert and Roy were originally from Barbados, but they were now both living in London. Albert won this division at the 1967 NABBA Mr. Universe, but he has not been able to take first place since then. Roy took second to Albert that year in 1967, but then he turned the tables on Albert at the 1969 NABBA Mr. Universe when Roy took second place and Albert took third. That was the year when Boyer Coe won the class. This year, Albert came into the contest in fantastic shape, and he took first place, and Roy had to settle for second again. Both bodybuilders were in great shape, with Albert displaying remarkable muscle definition and Roy showing off his thickness and mass. Lars Lund from Norway repeated his third place from last year. Lars had great size, but he needed to improve his muscle definition. Pete Caputo from the United States took fourth place in this class. He was competing in his first NABBA Mr. Universe contest. And fifth place went to Erling Wahlgren from Sweden. Erling also placed second at the IFBB Mr. Europe that year. Class 1 in the NABBA Mr. Universe was the smallest in terms of competitors, with only 6 men entered. Ken Waller from the United States was the dominant winner in this class. Ken had previously won the AAU Mr. World, the Junior Mr. USA, and the Mr. USA, and he had taken second a year ago to Chris Dickerson at the 1970 AAU Mr. America. After being suspended and not allowed to compete in the AAU Mr. America this year, Ken set his sights on the NABBA Mr. Universe. Paul Grant from Wales in the United Kingdom was second to Ken in Class 1. Paul was the current Mr. Europe overall winner. He also took the runner-up spot at the AAU Mr. World that year to Albert Beckles. This was Paul's second consecutive NABBA Mr. Universe contest. Dennis Wilkins from the United Kingdom was in third place, followed by Clement Wisdom from Jamaica in fourth place, and Bill Richardson from the United Kingdom took fifth place. For the overall decision, the judges compared Chris Dickerson from Class 3, Albert Beckles from Class 2, and Ken Waller from Class 1 for the overall title. They finally awarded Ken Waller the decision, so he was the amateur Mr. Universe winner, with Chris Dickerson in second place and Albert Beckles in third place. All right, the professional division was contested in 2 classes, Class 1, which was over 5'8", and Class 2, which was 5'8" and under. With 6 competitors in the short class, Frank Zane took an easy victory. Frank was making his professional debut at the NABBA Mr. Universe after winning the amateur title 1 year earlier in 1970. Kazım Yazbek from Syria was in second place in this class for the 3rd year in a row. It was close between Yazbek and Tony Emmett from Britain, who ended up in 3rd place. Tony had placed in the top 3 at the NABBA Mr. Britain for the last 2 years, and he was competing as a professional because he was a health club owner, and if you made your living in any way from fitness, then the NABBA organization considered you a professional. Tony would eventually go on to win the NABBA Mr. Universe in the late 70s and become a professional bodybuilder with the IFBB. Ludwig Ingerbretsen from Norway was in 4th place, with Bill Hemsworth from England in 5th place. The tall class at the 1971 NABBA Mr. Universe was one of the most exciting in the history of the contest. Bill Pearl and Reg Park, who were both 3-time NABBA Mr. Universe winners, were competing against each other for the first time. And joining them in this contest was the great Sergio Oliva, who was a 3-time Mr. Olympia, competing in his first NABBA Mr. Universe contest. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was actually the reigning NABBA Mr. Universe and a 4-time winner himself, was unfortunately absent from this contest because of a new rule instituted by the IFBB, which stated that any professional bodybuilders from the IFBB could no longer compete outside the organization. And what a shame, because it would have been great to have Arnold join Bill Pearl, Reg Park, and Sergio Oliva all on stage at the same time. So Bill Pearl, displaying fantastic size and proportions and a deep, rich tan, took a commanding first place in this class. Bill weighed 243 pounds at 5'10", and he looked magnificent with his masterful posing and great stage presence. Bill was actually 40 years old at the time this contest took place, but he would turn 41 only 1 month later. Sergio Oliva was amazing with his great mass and freaky proportions, but he was not quite defined enough to beat the great Bill Pearl. Sergio looked like he was either holding water or he just was not cut enough for the competition. Reg Park, who took second place a year ago to Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 1970 NABBA Mr. Universe, was back again. Reg dropped to 3rd place this year in the class. At 43 years old, Reg was very defined, but he just did not have the muscle size and mass that he used to have when he was younger. John Bubb was in 4th place, and Roger Francois was in 5th. At the prejudging, the judges compared the 3 men over and over again, both standing relaxed and doing the mandatory poses, in order to arrive at their decision. In the end, it was Bill Pearl in 1st place with 10 first place votes, and Sergio took 2nd place with 4 first place votes in his favor. So the overall winner was Bill Pearl, like I said, almost 41 years old, in the greatest shape of his life. This was Bill's 4th NABBA Mr. Universe contest, tying him with Arnold Schwarzenegger as the man who won the most NABBA Mr. Universe competitions. Bill was truly a legend in the sport of bodybuilding, and this would turn out to be his last competition. Bill would never compete again. And the judges were so impressed with Bill Pearl that they didn't even compare him to Frank Zane, who was the short class winner. They just announced Bill as the overall winner without any comparisons. The NABBA universe also featured the Miss Bikini universe that year, and it was very popular with 20 competitors entered into the contest. The winner went to Linda Ann Thomas, who was the current Miss Britain, and she was entering the contest for the third consecutive year. In second place was Pat Wheeldon, who was also a former Miss Britain. And third place went to Brenda Sell, who was the wife of former NABBA Mr. Universe winner Len Sell. Brenda was also the mother of 2 children. So I hope you enjoyed this recap of the 1971 NABBA Mr. Universe. It was one of the most exciting NABBA Mr. Universe competitions in the history of the event, and it featured the final competition of the great Bill Pearl, who beat out Sergio Oliva, Reg Park, and Frank Zane to win the title in the best shape of his life. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more episodes of Bodybuilding History. And don't forget to check out the Bodybuilding Legends Podcast every week on your favorite streaming service. And visit the website bodybuildinglegendshow.com for all our previous episodes. This is John Hansen for another episode of Bodybuilding History. Take care.